Hello everyone and welcome to the Magic Online Draft Archetypes as sort of voted for by you the viewer, because we look at the top commons and the top uncommons picked by you in your Magic Online winning drafts. I'm being joined by limited resource Marshall Sutcliffe. Great to have you here, Marshall.
Thank you.
Yesterday Ian sat in that chair and walked us through the ally pairs, the colours that are adjoining on the colour wheel. So we get our other five setups here, which means we're going to begin with white, black, which is kind of convenient since we've just seen Matt Sperling in action with a white-black life gain deck. Walk us through what white-black is trying to do.
Right, so white-black is kind of under the radar right now in this format. It's a life gain deck, but it abuses or uses a lot of cards that take advantage of... There's just a lot of cards in the set that say, when something gains life, or when you gain life, you get something for it. And these are the cards, and this is the deck that's going to try to leverage that to the maximum. What you look for here are repeated ways to gain life. Not just once, but every turn, and that way you can really take advantage of all of that. Now, a sub-theme with this deck, allies. A lot of these cards happen to be allies. Some of the life gain stuff happens when allies happen, so you're going to see some overlap there too. All
right, why don't we take a look at the top 5 commons as picked by you at home. So here we are, Calastria Healer, Gideon's Reproach, Complete Disregard, Sheer Drop, Castigator.
Yeah, so the card to really focus on is Calastria Healer. That's a card that didn't look that great when we first saw the set, but has turned out to be very, very strong, a really powerful common here. The rest of the cards on the list are all removal and a solid 2-drop here with Castigator. So, you know, that's the kind of stuff you'd expect to see just in white-black. But Calastria Healer, it's an ally, and it's a really, really important card for how these decks work.
Like you say, repeated source. That's the key thing to keep thinking of this. Don't just think, yes, I gained some life. It's like turn after turn after turn. Let's look at the top 5 uncommons for you. I am imagining we might see a Zulaport Cutthroat here. I wonder if we do.
Well, no. But I do think it should be on the list somewhere. I think it's one that you're going to want to value. Drana's Emissary is sort of the headliner for this deck because she hits both categories. She's an ally that will trigger some of those things, but more importantly, she's got that drain effect. And what you'll see throughout the most powerful versions of these cards are that it's not just you gaining life that happens, it's also your opponent losing life. And you know, that constant tax of just the drain, we call that a drain whenever you gain life, your opponent loses a life. And even though it doesn't look like much at just 1 per turn, it really adds up quickly. And then we see some of the payoff cards here as well. Bloodbond Vampire, again, gain a life every turn. That thing gets huge. It can be a 4/4, 5/5, 6/6 and just get out of hand. Serene Steward has a similar effect, except for that you can spread the counters out where you want. And you know, it doesn't matter where the life gain comes from or how you get it, as long as you get it and you can get it repeated, cards like Serene Steward and Bloodbond Vampire will just completely take over.
Okay, it's a super interesting archetype, but quite hard to draft and quite hard to really pull together. It's a fascinating set of options, the white-black. This time we're going to go to blue-red. So this is our 7th archetype. And Marshall, well, colorless, I think we can agree with.
Yeah.
Control?
Not so much. You can play a slowdown, more controlling version of this deck, but there's also a more mid-range, kind of a classic limited type deck where you're just playing good cards, you're beating down your opponent, you're answering their threats. This might be the best deck in the format. At least it's one of the headliners. It's one of the most obvious decks in the format when you start drafting it. There's a lot of synergies between these two colors, and you start looking at the cards, it's all about colorless. If the card says it is colorless, you're going to get bonuses here and there. They start to add up, and before you know it, you've got a real deck on your hands here.
All right, top 5 commons in the blue-red archetype as voted for by you in your winning lists. What do you like here?
So Eldrazi's Sky Spawner is one of the best commons in the set, full stop. That's an absolutely great card. You see Touch of the Void, but the first one you'll see there that really takes advantage is Nettle Drone. Nettle Drone taps to have your opponent do a damage. Whenever you play a colorless spell, it untaps it. It's also a 3/1 for 3, which isn't bad, and it's also colorless itself. That's the kind of thing you want. It adds up so quickly. You can pile on a ton of damage with that type of card. Kozilek Sentinel, similar, but with a less dramatic effect on the board.
All right, interesting that Clutch of Currents is there despite not being itself colorless.
Yeah, it does make a colorless creature, but it doesn't actually interact much with the colorless deck. It's just awesome.
Right. Yeah, but that's indicative of just how awesome it is.
Yeah.
Because it's not fundamentally synergizing, it's just really good.
All right.
All right, uncommons, top 5 uncommons in the blue-red archetype.
Now, so this is just a blockbuster lineup. The ones that we have the pictures of here are all awesome. Herald of Kozilek really only goes into this deck, but it's a really nice piece to have. A 2/4 for 3 mana is already fine, and the fact that it makes all of your spells, and I said that on purpose, basically 20 to 22 of your spells are going to cost 1 less. It can be really explosive, but the payoffs, Vile Aggregate, one of the best uncommons in the set. People have it right up there with some of the best, like Rolling Thunder, Grip of Desolation.
It has star power.
It has, it does, and that star, when I first saw it, I thought, okay, it's going to be 1, 2, maybe 3.
2, 3.
Instead, it's 4, 5, 6, 7, and it's absolutely huge. And turn against one of the best tricks we've had in a while, steal your opponent's creature at instant speed during combat and blow them out. Ruination Guide, also an absolutely huge part of this archetype. If you can pick those up early, they go right into this deck. They basically pump every creature in your deck, and Rolling Thunder is Rolling Thunder.
Yep, no argument there. All right, now our next color pair is black-green. And one of the great secrets of Magic is if you can do things that are not inherently strong, but as you do them, you feel inherently strong and powerful, that's a great feeling. That's just a visceral thing that you get as a gamer. The black-green archetype, you feel filthy when you're playing this deck, and I just love it for that.
Yeah, I love this deck too. It's a really cool deck. I haven't figured out how powerful it is relative to the other archetypes. My gut tells me it's somewhere in the middle. Not the worst, but maybe not one of the premier.
Right.
But you can see there's a lot of payoffs for it here. Smothering Abomination is a rare that we have right in the front here, which is great. But you know, cards like Blister Plod and Bone Splinters can work really well together. You're going to make a ton of Eldrazi Scion in this deck, which are good on their own, but also good in conjunction with other sacrifice type effects.
So let's see what people voted for in terms of the top picked commons for this archetype. So Eyeless Watcher, Complete Disregard removal, Bone Splinters removal, Demon's Grasp removal, and the #1 played card in the sealed portion of Grand Prix Madison and every sealed deck ever in this format. It's Kozilek's Channeler.
Yeah.
It's colorless, it's common. Every single deck wants one copy of it.
Yeah, I think what you get out of this list here is you get a sense for the type of cards that it wants, but it also shows you that the payoffs aren't super high. You're getting Eyeless Watchers, which is giving you 3 bodies to sacrifice or use to pump out big creatures. Bone Splinters, sure, it's a payoff. You have some expendable creatures around, and you can use a cheap removal spell like Bone Splinters to clear out your opponent's best threat. But there's no headliner here, right? And I think that this is part of the reason why this deck isn't maybe a tier above, you know, the blue-reds and some of the other decks, is that there's no just big crusher where you're just like, oh, I had that and then I just won the game.
Right, I mean, Eyeless
At least they're
Watcher,
common.
They're fair cards.
They're very fair cards.
And
they work well together,
Yep.
but not as well as like the blue-red and even some of the black-white that we talked about a few minutes ago.
Pretty much all of them except Kozilek's Channeler on that list, you would want to cost something like a little bit less, 1 less. At 3 Eyeless Watcher, 3 Paraguys for 3/3, that'd be great. You know, and Demon's Grasp, if it was 3 in a black to give something -5/-5, you'd be thinking, yeah, I'll be playing that, and it costs 5, and Eyeless Watcher costs 4. And yeah, so all
Agree.
right, what about the uncommons? Let's see if we can improve things in the black-green. What are the top uncommons?
So
Yeah.
we can, sort of. Again, you're looking at raw power here for the most part. The card that stands out is that Zulaport Cutthroat that we saw not in the black-white one. And again, these are just high power level cards. Brood Monitor, Catacomb Sifter. They work well with each other, but they're not just a hammer down finish that you'd like.
All right, number 4, we have 2 to go, and the players are shuffling in the feature match area. So let's get to it. Let's look at red, white, allies.
So this is an aggressive deck. It's probably the premier aggressive deck in the format. It uses ally synergies and some of the better cheap creatures in the format.
Moonder Ambush leader up front there. Let's take a look at the top 5 commons. What are you all picking at home? Let's take a look for you.
Turns out it's removal, Touch of the Void, Outnumber, Sheer Drop, and Reproach are all removal spells. Core Castigator, again, just a solid 2-drop to help get your beatdown going.
Yeah, it's got an unusual line of text that can't be blocked by Eldrazi Scions. Obviously, we've never seen that before, but a really important one because that card would be weak without that line.
Totally. I bet you they had it in as a 3/1 and decided after it got blocked a few times, yeah, that's just not good enough, and upgraded it.
Insufficient.
Yeah.
Let's see if the uncommons are sufficient for red-white.
Yeah, they're insane. Resolute Blade Master is your finisher. You play that at the top of your curve and kill your opponent with it. Core Blade Whirl's fantastic too, as a 2-drop that helps you get in for more damage in the early part of the game. You see Rolling Thunder, we've already talked about that. The card I really have my eye on though is Fire Mantle Mage. You see a picture of it there. That acts as kind of a
Menace
mini,
ally?
Yeah, it's the Menace ally. It kind of acts as a mini Resolute Blade Master in the sense that you can play it and you can often kill your opponent that turn, where that's kind of what this deck wants. It wants the big curve topper, and it comes in at only 3 mana.
Let me ask you about Resolute Blade Master. It's part of the cycle of the gold uncommons that want you to pick them and choose a direction. Obviously, we don't know what the rare is. We don't know if there's a super powerful common. We don't know if there's a Rolling Thunder in the pack. But is Resolute Blade Master generally a card you would be happy picking first? You want it to come to you and see that it's open?
Yeah, I want to pick it 4th or 5th after I've kind of tested the waters in white with maybe a little bit of red. Committing that hard to a gold card, especially one that requires you to have a specific type of deck like this does with a lot of allies, is pretty risky and probably not worth it.
All right, so that's your uncommons. Let's go to our last of our 10 color pairs. We just ended up with green and blue. So what is green-blue trying to do, Marshall?
Well, so this is, they start off green-blue and then they branch out into the other colors. So we're looking at a converged deck here. And as you can see, there's a lot of different ways to do this. Let's take a look at the commons.
Yep, top 5 commons are, here we go, Sky Spawner, Infiltrator, Clutch, Watcher, and Channeler.
Which, by the way, just shows you that converge isn't really a thing.
Okay, and the uncommons?
And this is one of the big payoffs with Skyrider. Elf, of course, is one of the best payoffs you can get. Also, this deck just makes a lot of mana, so cards like Coastal Discovery become well within range.
All right, so that's green-blue, and that wraps up our look here at the Magic Online Draft Archetypes.